Palestinians are returning to a devastated Jabalia camp in the north of Gaza as the Israeli occupation army has partially left. According to the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization, an unprecedented epidemic is underway in the American continent as more than 8.1 million cases of dengue fever have been reported so far in 2024. And NATO Secretary General has succeeded in getting some member countries to withdraw limitations on Western weapons so that they can be used against Russian territory. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. On Friday, local authorities in Palestine informed that residents are returning to a devastated Jabalia camp in the north of Gaza as the Israeli occupation army has partially left. In this regard, national and international humanitarian organizations reported that locals described the return as shocking due to the level of destruction found and stressed that the place is the scene of decimated houses and public buildings where abandoned bodies have been left in the streets. Regarding the state of the area, Mahmoud Basal, a civil defense spokesman in the north of the Gaza Strip, pointed out that around 70% of the Jabalia camp has been completely destroyed and more than 800 houses have been demolished. We stay in Palestine as newborns were evacuated from the Emirates Hospital in central Rafah following the Israeli army's invasion of the area. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that the Israeli regime now controls most of Rafah after several weeks of military siege. Medical staff at the Emirates Hospital added that during the occupation's aggressions, multiple pieces of medical equipment were destroyed. Israeli troops are threatening the lives of dozens of children in intensive care, as well as newborns who require this specialized care. Meanwhile, in the United States, police began dismantling a pro-Palestinian encampment on Thursday at the Wayne State University in Detroit, 2 days after the school suspended in-person classes and encouraged staff to work remotely to avoid any problems with the protesters' encampment. Television footage showed campus police and Detroit police officers in riot gear tearing down fencing before they removed the protesters and started breaking down tents erected last week near Wayne State's undergraduate library. Encampments and demonstrations sprung up across the U.S. and in Europe as students demanded their universities to stop doing business with Israel and companies that support its offensive in Gaza. With these actions, organizers seek to amplify calls for a ceasefire that stops the genocide against the Palestinians. And in this context, the government of Slovenia adopted on Thursday the decision to recognize the independence and sovereignty of Palestine. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the European nation, the process sends a strong signal to other countries to follow the example of Slovenia, Norway, Spain, and Ireland. The message added that the recognition of Palestine reaffirms Slovenia's role in the United Nations Security Council as a promoter of peace and security. The decision also solidifies Slovenia's long-standing position that a lasting resolution to the Middle East conflict can only be achieved through the two-state solution, on which there is a broad international consensus. The country has in this way joined the 146 countries out of the 193 UN members that recognize Palestine as a sovereign state.
Today, the government made a decision to recognize Palestine as an independent and sovereign state within the borders as defined by the United Nations resolutions, within the borders of 1967, or within the borders that will be agreed upon by the parties involved in a future peace agreement. This decision has one message, a message to both sides that we want a cessation of hostilities as soon as possible and that we want the release of the hostage as soon as possible. This message of recognition is not directed at anyone, not even the state of Israel. This is a message of peace. We believe that the moment has come today when we all, the whole world must act in one direction, the direction that brings lasting peace in the Middle East, that is, in the direction of two states. I expect that in the coming months, the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination will be recognized not only by Western countries. I expect the Arab countries to recognize this same right to Israel, recognition of both, recognition of Palestine on the one hand, recognition of Israel on the other.
In other news, on Friday, within the framework of the first day of registration of candidates for Iranian early presidential election, 5 candidacies were registered. In this regard, Saeed Jalili, former chief nuclear negotiator and member of the Assembly of Experts, was one of the politicians to be inscribed. Jalili, acknowledging the challenge of running for the presidency, invoked the figure of martyr President Ebrahim Raisi. It should be noted that during the first day of registration, more than 30 applicants came to the Interior Ministry, but only 5 met the required conditions. Applicants must be between 40 and 75 years old and at least have a university master's degree in addition to be approved by the Council of Guardians. Saeed Jalili is a 50-year-old candidate for the upcoming presidential elections in Iran. He was director of political planning in the office of the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, in 2001. His academic summary includes a doctorate in political science from Imam Sadek University, where he also served as a university professor. Saeed Jalili served as Deputy Foreign Minister for Euro-American Affairs, was appointed advisor to President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2005, and also served as head of Iran's nuclear negotiations and secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In the American continent, more than 8.1 million cases of dengue fever have been reported so far this year. According to the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization, an unprecedented epidemic in the region. Experts are already warning that large outbreaks of dengue fever could be the norm for the future. They attribute it to climate change causing longer and warmer rainy seasons. They also say that health systems in the region are being put to the test. Sylvain Aldigieri, director of the Pan American Organization, warned on Thursday that this year runs the risk of being the one with the highest number of documented cases so far. And in Argentina, the government of President Javier Milei, following the intervention of the Argentinian federal justice system, will finally distribute thousands of tons of food it had withheld from the population. The decision comes after a claim made by lawyer Juan Grabois, who warned that over 330,000 kilos of powdered milk were about to spoil. In turn, the judge Sebastián Casanello issued a production order for a detailed report on the situation of the food held by the government in warehouses. The repercussion of the scandal, which caused several priests to go on hunger strike, made the Secretary for Children and Family, Pablo de la Torre, lose his job after the Minister of Human Capital, Sandra Petovelo, ousted him on Thursday. In this context, thousands of Argentinians are suffering due to lack of food. And we stay in Argentina as Norita Cortiñas, members of the Mothers of Plaza de Mayo founding line, passed away on Thursday at the age of 94. Tireless fighter for the defense of human rights, social, feminist, and worker. The family of Nora Irma Morales de Cortiñas announced her death. She had undergone surgery on May 17th for a hernia, which added to other pathologies that aggravated her condition. Norita joined the mothers after the kidnapping of her son Gustavo on April 15, 1977, during the last civil military dictatorship in Argentina. She was an outstanding referent for her tireless fight in defense of life and human rights, which earned her the respect and unconditional love of the people. In other news, on Thursday, the plenary session of the Peruvian Congress approved the reform for the immediate re-election of mayors and regional governors, but excluded the regional movements from the upcoming elections. This measure, approved with 82 votes in favor, has caused dissatisfaction in regional movements. In this sense, Freddy Braco, president of the Association of Regional Movements, rejected the approval, pointing out that it violates the fundamental right to participate in electoral processes. Braco also stated that 72 leaders of the movements will meet to discuss how to effectively face this issue. And on Thursday evening, Defense Minister of Colombia, Iván Velázquez, announced security forces prevented an attack in the southwest of the country. A coordinated raid among the National Police, the National Army, and the Air Force coped with a heavy blow to the known FARC dissident operating in the department of Cauca. The Jacobo Arenas Western Bloc of the self-styled Central General Staff were planning an attack when intelligence work led to the arrest of alias Esteban in the municipality of Jambalo. In this instance, it was revealed that the organization had ordered the preparation of 10 cylinders of approximately 600 kilograms of explosives and shrapnel, 8 times bigger than those used in the attack on the cadet school in Santander, which occurred in 2019. We move on to other topics. In the United States, former President Donald Trump was declared guilty of 34 charges of falsification of accounting records in the first degree, thus becoming the first former president of the country convicted in a criminal trial. After delivering for 2 days, the 12 members of the New York Criminal Court unanimously found Trump guilty of covering up a bribe to silence the former adult film actress Stormy Daniels before the 2016 elections. The prosecution claimed that the fraud was intended to prevent then voters from knowing about their behavior. In addition, the criminal stay ensured that the former President Donald Trump faces a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison that will be ruled on July 11th. For his part, the former president, after hearing the sentence, claimed not to have acted badly and that he is innocent of charges of bribery.
They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. The Secretary General of NATO has succeeded in getting some member countries to withdraw limitations on Western weapons so that they can be used against the Russian territory. Jens Stoltenberg expressed during a press conference held in Prague this morning that he expects Ukraine to be responsible in its attacks on Russian positions. He also assured that many of the allies of the Atlantic Organization support Ukraine's right to defend itself and resist Moscow's announcements as threats. In this context, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warned that this shows that weapons have been used against targets on Russian soil from the very beginning. And in the United Kingdom, the Parliament dissolved in anticipation of the July 4th elections. The British Parliament ceased functions in the early morning of Thursday. The dissolution signals the conclusion of all parliamentary activities in both the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The events are part of the established process for elections that, according to the country's law, must be held at least every 5 years, while the timing for them needs to be called for by the Prime Minister. In the United Kingdom, the Parliament and government are two separate institutions. Therefore, the government does not resign when Parliament is dissolved, and the ministers remain in charge of their departments. In this context, analysts foresee the elections are poised to potentially bring the Labour Party to power after 14 years of conservative governments that have left the country in the midst of an economic and social crisis. As a result, the United Kingdom reportedly has 4.3 million children in poverty, 2.5 million people who have had to resort to food banks, and 7.5 million who are currently on the waiting list for public health operations. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.